time I got paid for a security thing, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a professional hacker now. And I just like went around telling everyone I'm a professional hacker. I've got this Burp Suite file which has 30,000 websites in a single project file, and I use that with my extensions to kind of throw payloads at all these websites. He kept saying, this is too dangerous to run on production systems. It's too powerful. It's too risky. Sitting there knowing like you can hack like a third of the websites on the internet is a nice feeling. So HTTP1 is everywhere. It's almost impossible. So if you use a CDN, it's virtually impossible not to be using HTTP1 somewhere. Is going to feature in my presentation. Not to give too many spoilers. That's it, but the fundamentals have really not changed much.
Hey everyone, this is AmrSec and welcome back to SecMeet. Today I'm sitting with someone who had a massive impact on the world of web exploitation. If you have spent even 5 minutes in bug bounty or web security scene, you have already used his work, maybe without even realizing it. I'm not going to spoil what we are about to dive into, but what he's going to tell us is real, powerful, and will absolutely shift your way thinking about attacking web apps. So, this is SecMeet and welcome James Kettle. Hey James, how are you? Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me here. Yep, I do really good. Excited to talk about some research.
That's pretty good. So, of course, we're going to be right here today talking about some cool things. And we are expecting you to show us some pretty good things, juicy information.
Cool, yep. Let's get stuck in, shall we?
Okay, pretty well. Okay, James. So, can you tell us more about your background and how you got into the web security specifically in the first place?
Sure, absolutely. So, I got into web security through bug bounty hunting. Back when I started in like 2009 or so, there were very, very few companies paying bug bounties, but Mozilla and Google had just launched them fairly recently, so there was just a few websites where you could have a look and earn money by finding bugs. And at the time, that was like completely revolutionary, and you didn't have to like sign any contracts or prove your expertise or send your CV in even. You just find a bug and get paid. And that thing, I think like these days, because it's so normal, everyone talks about it all the time, you can kind of lose an appreciation of how cool this is, that literally anyone can go teach themselves some skills and get Google to pay the money. I mean, that is insane. Like, yeah.
And get paid, right? Like, it was pretty new. I think the company that was having a bug bounty program, I think something like Google, Mozilla, I think Yahoo was there too, right?
Yeah, I think they maybe Yahoo came in slightly later. I remember eBay was the other one, but I spent ages writing this crazy capture bypass exploit for eBay that was crazy complex, and they just kind of shot it down, and I was like, stuff those guys, I'm never going near them again.
Yeah.
Well, sure, the bug bounty program is fine now, but I think things were quite immature back then.
Yeah, talking about bug bounty hunting, like, what was your first memorable bug or vulnerability, and what made you stick with it?
So I think my very first issue was just a stored XSS in YouTube, and I remember, I found out that was the first time I got paid, for a security thing, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a professional hacker now, and I just like went around telling everyone I'm a professional hacker. In that moment, it became my identity, basically. And I've moved, hopefully matured a little bit to not be quite so one-dimensional. But that moment, like, the bug wasn't that exciting, technically, but just the moment of finding it and getting paid for it was amazing. And then I think my first piece of research was I did password reset poisoning on the framework Django, which is what addons.mozilla.org was built on. And that was my first proper novel attack. And that feeling of research made me realize, like, this is the kind of professional hacker that I want to be. I want to be someone hacking systems using techniques that no one else even knows exist.
But actually, like, starting with start the exercise in YouTube as a start, this really cool. Like, yeah, it's technically like not that complex like what you say, but it is still very cool to start. Like, you're learning something new and trying on a target such as YouTube, and boom, you got it, right?
Getting a target like that's often harder these days. Like, I think I literally went from like OWASP web goat to YouTube. That was my exploit pathway, and it's like these days you'll be lucky. I mean, you might be lucky or you might not. You probably want to pick a slightly softer target now, but yeah.
Actually, right now, most of the websites became like more secure for vulnerabilities like OWASP Top 10, for example, XSS SQL injection. But in 2025, there is a bunch of websites that are still vulnerable to like normal vulnerabilities like SQL injection or such a thing. So maybe someone just starting, he will get something like this and it will be his luck, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Totally, those techniques still work. You just want to look at a target that slightly less people have already looked at over the last 20 years, right? That's it. But the fundamentals have really not changed much.
That's great. You are working with some huge techniques, but before we dive in, what does typical day in new research process looks like?
Good question. So there's I don't have much of a typical day because every day is different. Like, every time of year is different. My goal every year is to present a new technique at Black Hat USA and DEF CON. And so let's take a day in so from like September to maybe February, I spend that time basically focused on technical research, and I'm pursuing an idea. I'm just trying out concepts. I've got this Burp Suite file, which has 30,000 websites in a single project file, and I use that with my extensions to kind of throw payloads at all these websites, and these are payloads that I've just come up with, and they're kind of experimental. They're often not even looking for vulnerabilities. They're just looking for weird behavior. Like, for example, when I was researching HTTP2, I realized, like, oh right, with H2 it's technically possible to have a request method containing a space, which is impossible in H1. And I was like, well, I wonder what happens if I do that. So I just sent a method like that to these 30,000 websites and just looked at the results and kind of investigated them to see whether any of them were doing something interesting or not. So it's that kind of like, I'm not directly looking for an exploit, because if you try and jump straight to like a hypothetical exploit, you're not going to get there. You just want to learn. My goal for most of the year is learning. And then maybe in the last month or two of my research, I'll have learned everything I need to, and I'll start actually like earning some bounties and sending off some vulnerability reports.
So the main goal is to just find a weird behavior first. Then after you find this weird behavior, you're going to understand how this happens and why, and you're going to like dig step by step to turn it to exploit, right? Not jumping directly.
Exactly. My goal for maybe 2/3 of the time I spend researching is to learn things that other people don't know, to kind of develop my understanding of how systems actually behave. Everyone knows how systems are supposed to behave, right? You can just read an RFC. You could read a million tutorials, but what I want to know is, what are systems out there?
Yeah, but you are searching for something new, because if someone knows, if something public and everyone knows about it, it's simply to be not exist on the thing that you're testing on, right?
Exactly, yeah, and to get like my presentation accepted to Blackout USA, it needs to be innovative. It needs to be novel. It can't just be, oh yeah, I took a technique that someone else made and then just use their technique. I also spend for most days, I spend some time looking at other people's research, and I'm basically looking at it from a critical point of view, like what I want to do. My ideal thing is I find someone else's research and it's great research, but when I read it, I can see they made some mistakes as well. And I can go, okay, what if their mistakes lead to them missing some important things? So I'll take something that's really high quality and I'll take some research that's high quality and I'll look for the flaws in that research and look for the things they didn't think of or didn't try, or the wrong assumptions that they made, and then I'll explore those gaps in their research and try and build something on top of what they've done.
And of course, always when you do such a thing, you will find a new things and new behaviors because they did not try it. And with such a high quality research, you will be having a better result. You will get another better behavior or another better data, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, you never know what you're going to get. So you've just got to, being a successful researcher is about finding out what you get as fast as possible. When research goes badly is when you spend too long on something and without making progress. I think you have to be quite brutal about seeing when something doesn't have so much potential and just giving up and moving on.
That's right. So let me tell you something. You have built tools, okay, and written researches and dropped serious vulnerabilities. But what part of the work you enjoy the most?
For me, I enjoy the kind of the good question. It's the pure research part. It's the discovery of something that is like new or unknown, and the more kind of unknown it is, like the more crazy it is, like the more exciting that is for me. It's funny because this doesn't necessarily align well with like what gets you a big bounty. For example, my research that I enjoyed the most was browser-powered desync attacks, and especially the client-side desync attacks, because like it was so technically challenging, and it was so like, is this possible? Is this not possible? I've got no idea. And it's like, actually, client-side desync bugs. As a bounty hunter, I hate client-side desync. Like, I don't know if you've tried it yourself, but it's like you put in so much effort. It's like you'll put in like 2 weeks of effort at the low end on one bug, and in terms of impact, it's like XSS, and it's like, who wants to get an XSS payout for 2 weeks? 2 weeks of like seriously hard work. It doesn't pay that well, but from a technical point of view, it's just so interesting that that's even possible. So that was a fun piece of research.
Yeah, actually, so like you're more interested in discovery, finding new things. That's the interesting part for you, like finding an XSS that have been discovered before, or such a thing is not really excited as finding something that you're the first one who found it.
Exactly, like I would categorize it as like, as a researcher, core part of being a researcher, I think, is you get bored of things that you understand quickly. So for me, like the first time I found CLT request smuggling, that was great, right? And then I found like 50, and I was earning lots of money from them, but it's just doing the same thing over and over. Well, that's just boring to me. Like, that is why I try to publish research where actually there's still money to be made from that technique. You know, bounty hunters can still use that and get a lot of value from it, because I'd rather be working on the next new thing that no one knows, rather than just applying a methodology.
Okay, that's great. So how do you decide whether something is worth digging into or not? Do you follow curiosity or something else?
It's a very difficult question. There's a lot of factors that go into this. I think two things that I look at are, I think you can predict how likely something is to work when you've got when you've got enough experience. You can kind of look at something and go, you can imagine like,
You kind of feel it.
yeah, it's like, I think it comes down to like, how plausible is it that a developer would write some code that had this vulnerability? And you can kind of imagine it, like you can literally just try and write the code and be like, did I have to do some kind of weird artificial stuff to get this code? Or did it just like, actually, I wrote some code and my own code was vulnerable by accident? Like, that's the other end of the spectrum, right? So that's one aspect. Another aspect is, if this vulnerability did exist, would normal users discover it by accident? Because if you've got a bug, like certain types of caching flaw, right, could lead to a website serving the wrong cached content to other users. But the thing is, if that will happen without an attacker having to do something to trigger it, well, it will happen all the time, right? And users will report it and it will get fixed. So you can use that to kind of eliminate and rule out classes of bug quite effectively. And the final, like one of the most important things is, it's not how valuable is this topic, it's like, how fast can I discover whether this topic is valuable? If you tell me I have to spend, like, let's take HTTP 3, right? Are there cool bugs in HTTP 3 servers? Yeah, of course there are. I'm sure there are. But in order to find those bugs, I need to implement a HTTP 3 client. And that is a pretty big piece of work, like maybe a month of work or something like that. So that's a big cost to pay just to start to try and find some bugs, right? So I'm not saying don't research HTTP3, you totally should, but you've got to factor in, like, how much is it going to cost me just to get started in this area of research?
So yeah, I got your point. That's really good point. And I got exactly what you mean. It's not feeling, it's just experience.
Yeah, it's both. That's why it's hard for me to tell you, oh, just apply these three simple steps. I think there's a risk to, it's tempting to try and simplify things and simplify them too much and then lose. Every time you simplify something, you lose something, right?
That's great. So let's talk about something I actually really excited to talk about, which is HTTP request smuggling. Why made you start exploring that space, and what surprised you most when you did it?
Cool. So I remember I remember every now and again I would look. I would just see something when I was reading about a vulnerability that didn't quite make sense. Like, for example, people talked about this vulnerability called HTTP response splitting, right? Like, that's a widely used term. But every time, on every article that you looked at, the payload, all it did was inject a header into the response. And it's like, there's something funny there, because why was this ever called response splitting when it's clearly just injecting a header, right? There's something funny there, right? And the answer was, actually, the term was invented for injecting an entire additional response and causing a desynchronization. But that knowledge was forgotten, but the name stayed the same. So there were just little clues like that. And then I saw Regilero gave a DEF CON presentation in like 2016, something like that, called Hiding Wookiees in HTTP. And he gave this talk and he was like, presenting this stuff that I did not understand it at all. It made no sense to me. The diagrams just melted my brain. Mm-hmm. But what got my attention was the fact he kept saying, this is too dangerous to run on production systems. It's too powerful. It's too risky. Mm-hmm. And I was like, risky sounds good to me, right? If a technique is so dangerous that it will like blow up live production systems by accident, I want to know that technique. Like, I want to understand that technique.
How this works, like why it's so risky.
Right, like so because risky means powerful, basically. So I think because of that, even at first I was like, oh, someone else is going to look at that topic. But then after 2 years, no one had looked at it, maybe because it was hard to understand and it wasn't presented in a weaponized kind of way, and it sounded scary. So I thought, okay, well, I know scary topics that I'm scared of are topics that are good for research. So I was like, I'm just going to look at the scary topic. Mm-hmm. And then I found this old white paper from 2003 or something by Amit Klein, and I tried like the first technique in the white paper, and it worked on every single website using Akamai. So it worked on like PayPal, it worked on loads of banks, it worked in many, many, many places, and I could just instantly see like how powerful this technique was going to be.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Actually, that's kind of cool. Like I became excited. I didn't know why, but this is really exciting. And actually, like one of the most exciting thing until now is just the discovery part. You know, like discovering a new things. Not just when you try to hunt for some target or something. You go try for searching for XSS and SQL injection and such a thing. Like it's good, but trying to figure something new, it's better, you know. And when you finally figure it, you will feel like I'm a real hacker, you know. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, that's it. Like nothing beats that feeling. Sitting there knowing like you can hack like a third of the websites on the internet is a nice feeling. You almost don't want to report the issue, like, God, you know.
That's actually really cool. So most people are struggling with reproducing request smuggling or web cache poisoning. Like, what do you think they are missing?
So there's it's interesting. So I'm going to talk about this exact topic in my upcoming Black Hat presentation. I'll just share my screen. Cool. So I've got a talk coming up called HTTP1 Must Die, the Desync Endgame, and one of the key things I've discovered is that it looks like request smuggling vulnerabilities are kind of dead, but this is due to very, very weak mitigations. Like it's basically an illusion, it's a trick. And so in this presentation, which is airing at Black Hat in August and will be at RomHack in Rome in September, and hopefully also at DEF CON in August, in this session I'm going to be releasing tools and techniques that will basically reveal how widespread this bug still is, and I'll also be sharing a whole ton of research leads, so simple steps that you can take to go a bit beyond what I've done and find even more issues. So hopefully this will be a massive help with request smuggling for everyone.
I don't know actually, but do you think that there is a bunch of webs right now still using HTTP1?
So HTTP1 is everywhere. It's almost impossible. So if you use a CDN, it's virtually impossible not to be using HTTP1 somewhere. A lot of websites, a lot of CDNs and servers speak HTTP2 to the client, to the web browser, but they speak HTTP1 to the backend server. So when you look at it, it looks like it's speaking HTTP2, but actually upstream, which is where it actually matters for request smuggling, it's speaking HTTP1, and it will never speak HTTP2 because they haven't implemented it. So the only major CDN that supports HTTP2 upstream is Cloudflare, I believe, but even Cloudflare is going to feature in my presentation, not to give too many spoilers.
Okay, that's cool. So actually, just want to know, like, if do you have a mental checklist or pattern you follow when you're exploring an unknown application behavior?
No, not at all. I think with research, the more you do, if you use the same if you use the same approach every time, research basically stops working. So it's almost the opposite of with research. You have to go, what did I do last time? Okay, how am I going to change it? What am I going to do differently this time?
Oh, you mean like if you just have a list and you're trying to do this list every time you start a new research, so actually you're doing the same research, right?
Exactly. What I love to do is to look at my older pieces of research and go, what did I do wrong? That's one of the most useful things you can do.
So how do you usually fingerprint or test a system for desync behavior or caching weakness?
I do it in an automated manner because I prefer to do it at scale. So I've built a new open source tool which does some probing that I'm going to be sharing in this upcoming presentation, which uses like it uses a whole new approach of testing for desync things that basically bypasses all the mitigations, and it's much more capable of finding kind of research grade issues. It finds a lot more things, and it's really good at finding slightly weirder things, like things where maybe if you apply a basic exploit methodology, it won't work, but maybe with some creativity, you can make it work. That kind of thing.
That's right. When you are dealing with complex or layered systems, WAFs, CDNs, microservices, how do you approach breaking the submission?
So I treat everything from a black box view, and I just kind of throw things at it and see what happens. And then when something interesting shows up, that's the point where I try and say, okay, here's the behavior that I've observed. Can I come up with an explanation for this behavior? Like, can I come up with like a mental model that's like, oh, they must have like 3 proxy servers in a chain and the second one must be a cache, that kind of analysis. I try and do that after I found something interesting. I should mention at this point, actually, let's share my screen again. My colleague Martin and I are presenting a tool at Black Hat USA, and I think DEF CON Bug Bounty Village maybe, called HTTP Stream Hacker for finding these kind of research grade request smuggling issues. This is separate from my tool. And one of the things this does is it helps you build that model of what the server looks like how many proxies they've got and what transformations are happening and that kind of stuff. And it does that with timing-based analysis and such like. So that's kind of giving you a bit of a boost in trying to build this mental model of what's happening, which is often really useful for coming up with viable exploits.
That's actually really cool. Like, I wasn't expecting such a thing. So what's your take on the future of web research? Are there areas that you think are still massively unexplored?
Yeah, so I think things are definitely shifting. So what we're seeing on the browser side is browsers are kind of getting gradually more and more locked out of things that's getting kind of quite tricky. So from a technical point of view, things are just getting more interesting, right? You've got more defenses to bypass, and you still mostly can bypass them, but it's getting more difficult to. It's taking more of a time and skill investment to come up with novel research in that space that has like a major impact. But meanwhile, on the server side, things are just getting more and more complex and more crazy. And then when you've got them built on stuff on a crazy insecure foundations like HTTP 1, there's still so much potential. Like this research that I've done this year on HTTP 1, I think it's got more exploits and more bounties than any other presentation that I've ever done. It's absolutely crazy. I've had to leave out some super interesting stuff because there just isn't time to fit it all in the presentation. So in areas like that, yeah, there's still an insane amount of potential for further research. And then obviously on the horizon, we've got people building stuff really rapidly with AI, and that's obviously going to have some consequences too. I think over time, we've kind of built this intuition for like, these are the kinds of vulnerabilities that developers code, and the kinds of flaws that AI generated systems may have may be a little bit different, and kind of learning to identify those is going to become quite an important skill, and I think is a worthwhile area of research too.
So yeah, everything is shifting, which means that every time there is something moves forward, it opens a new doors for a new vulnerabilities, new researches or such a thing. That's right?
Yeah, pretty much. There's some things where there's undeniable progress, like, to use a similar example, HTTP 2 is much less prone to serious vulnerabilities than HTTP 1. Like, it basically doesn't have request smuggling. So over the long term, we can see, yeah, things get more secure when they use newer protocols like that. But the amount of like legacy tech debt, like we're still seeing things being exploited with buffer overflows, right? Like how long have we known about buffer overflows? SQL injection was documented in like 1990 something in Frac, right? Like,
and it is discoverable.
It turns up, but it is less common, but it still turns up. So things change, but they just change so slowly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So let me ask this bug bounty hunting question. What's a bug you discovered that made you step back and go like, wait, this is bigger than I thought?
That's a tricky one off the top of my head. So some of these things, I think probably the original one that did that for me was password reset poisoning, because the first time I discovered the first version of that bug, so was on an analytics program called Pywick, right? And I was just reading their code and looking at how they generated the password reset link, and they used a function to return the current path, right? And this is in PHP, which means you can put like a, like /index.php/ and then anything you want to, then that will be part of the path. So when I found that, I realized, yeah, okay, you can put a space in the path, you can inject a new link, and then the password reset token will go to the attacker. And then they patched that, and I was like, well, hang on, how do they know the host name? Well, turns out they just look at the host header in the request. But obviously that issue, that's not a Pyric issue. That's not a PHP issue. That's like basically every deployable website of that style was looking at the host header when generating password reset links. So I suddenly realized this one issue that just affected one target was at way broader than that.
That's right. Like any website that's using the same way for the password link or the same technology of PHP or such a thing, it's going to be vulnerable for the same door with the same way.
Yeah, that's it. It's that moment of like, first I'm like, this is a pirate/PHP thing, and then I'm like, it's not just a pirate PHP thing, because the host name just comes from the host header. That's a HTTP thing, and when you've got a HTTP thing that's exploitable, well, then you can hack a lot of websites with it.
That's right. That's cool. So what's something you have changed your mind about in web hacking? Maybe something you used to think was useless, but now you take it seriously.
So I used to think that scanning and that automation was basically for script kiddies. I used to do basically everything manually, and now I have pretty much the exact opposite approach. I want to automate those early stages of testing as much as possible, and it may, like I see people doing the things manually that Burp can do for you automatically now, and it's just like, why? It's just a bit sad. It's just a bit depressing.
Yeah, like
when people aren't kind of jumping on this stuff and taking advantage of it.
Oh yeah, like why you had to waste time for something that you can just automate it in whatever it is, but it will be less time than you do it manually, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, or maybe it won't be automated, but it will be like they have their secret sauce, right? And they do that manually, but it would be they could automate that for themselves and just make their own life easier. I believe in automation these days.
Yeah, that's really cool. Actually, automation is pretty cool. Helping in really good timing. For example, like right now, finding subdomains is not really complex thing. As a subdomains, it's just an example. But think about finding subdomains manually. Think about it and think if you just use the tool or just Burp intruder to fuzz for them. Like take a look at the timing between them, and yeah, that's the automation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, to give an example that I used recently, I sometimes when I'm testing a site, especially with like an infrastructure level attack like web cache poisoning or desync attacks, the behavior of the website will suddenly change, and then it will change back again. And what's happening is they've got multiple front end servers, and they're using DNS. Like DNS round robin load balancing, something like that. So what I was doing is I copy the host name and I type dig, and then I paste the host name into the terminal to find all the front end IPs, and then I pin it to one of those IPs so I have consistent behavior. And then we recently introduced a feature in Burp Suite Pro called custom actions, and which lets you kind of build your own repeater feature. And with that, with like 5 lines of code, I made something that did that DNS lookup and printed it in for me with the press of a button instead of copy pasting something. And then I realized, like, hang on, I'm still creating manual work. So I made another one which you click the button and it sends the repeater request to every front end and prints out the response. So you can instantly see if different front ends are treating things differently, which is really valuable information that would take like a minute of manual testing, and now you can do it with one button click. Yeah, there's always things you can automate more, and I think it's almost always a valuable use of time.
That's really cool, actually. And this feature specifically, I have tested it. Something other that I really liked in the latest version of Burp, which is the Burp AI.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you need another head to think with you, because you cannot just hold everything, and you need that agent that that's smart enough to think with you on the same line. So yeah, basically these things are awesome. I want to ask something that I always love to ask anyone I'm talking with is for the new hackers or the people who are getting to penetration testing or so. So what's your advice for them if they're just getting started?
I think I would, when you're just getting started, it's important to take a long-term perspective. And so what's important is not like, let's say, so this is a kind of a basic example, but off the top of my head, like what's important if you're considering a job, what's important is not like how much that job is paying you. What's important is how fast you will learn and develop in that job. In your early career, things like rapid development are absolutely crucial and really easy to overlook. Like, if it's, you might see something that's kind of high paid, but when you go there, people aren't super motivated. No one cares that much. They're just kind of checking in and checking out. And then the company's probably going to get eaten by some AI product in a couple of years' time. Like, yeah, always look at your trajectory. How much are you learning? What's the next thing? That you want to be doing that for like the first 10 years at least. Because if you don't do that, you can just kind of get stuck in a certain role, and that's your skill set. And the longer you're in one role with one skill set, the harder it becomes to move outside that.
Yeah, I got it. So they have to rather than thinking about that what they will get, they have to think how they can get more knowledge as fast as possible, and develop that knowledge.
That's it. My view is if you're not learning new things rapidly, it's time to change job. That's my view. That's if you want to be a researcher. Anyway, note that some people kind of fetishize overwork and say, oh, you should be working 18 hours a day, and if you're not doing that, you won't progress. I think that's complete nonsense. I think you can work you can have a healthy work-life balance and still develop rapidly, as long as you try.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So actually, I think that's pretty much it today for this meeting. I really enjoyed this meeting with you, James.
Cool. Thanks very much. It's been great chatting with you. Hope you guys found some of that stuff useful, and hopefully see you in Vegas, where I will show you how you can help kill HTTP1. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, James. So this wraps up this episode of SecMeet. Big thanks to James Kettle for sharing some serious value in this one. I have dropped all the James's socials down in the description. Go check them out. And let me know in the comments who do you want to see in the next episode of SecMeet. As always, if you found this video helpful, do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more cybersecurity content. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below, or you can reach me directly using Twitter. Until next time, stay curious and stay secure.